Mekti, do you remember your very first day in a new place when you realized you had no idea where anything was? What confused you the most?
Honestly, I don't really remember the first day. It feels blurred, like the whole first month became a one long moment.
Mm-hmm.
When I arrived in a new country, my husband and I lived in an apartment hotel. I didn't speak the local language, only English. At that time, I didn't have ChatGPT, no dictionaries, no useful tools at all. I was completely unprepared.
Right.
It felt like an inner shock. Everything we had talked about for 10 years, moving to another country, suddenly became real. That shock lasted for about a month. Everything was new. The language, the people, the environment. How was it for you?
I understand you so well. I had a similar experience. During the first days, I couldn't even choose the right bus and kept thinking, that's it, I'm going to get lost.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that shock in the end? Was there a moment when you felt, okay, I'm starting to understand how life works here?
I don't think there was one clear moment, but I understand now how my body and my mind handled it. I didn't have a sharp change between before and after.
Okay.
I work online, so my daily routine stayed the same. At home, we spoke our native language, and I continued working like before. I think that saved me from apathy or depression.
That makes sense.
That's when I really understood how important it is to keep something familiar around you when something big happens. I kept my morning routines and habits, while my mind was getting used to the fact that I was in another country and that this was not just a trip. I continued doing what I had always done, and that really saved me. How did you go through that time?
At first, I tried to pretend that everything was under control, but at some point, I honestly admitted to myself, I feel lost, and that's normal.
Right.
When I allowed myself to feel this way, I slowly started finding small supports, my own routines and habits. Step by step, it became easier.
Yes, I completely agree with you. Keeping familiar things in your life is very important when something unexpected happens. It really helps you adapt faster.
It really does.
Even if I hadn't had a job, my small morning routines would still have supported me.
Absolutely. These habits are like anchors. They help you not get lost when everything around you is still chaotic.
Yeah.
And they remind you that you are still you, just in a new chapter of life. Did you have any funny or awkward everyday situations during the first weeks? Something you can smile about now?
Honestly, not in the very first weeks. Funny situations came later when I started learning German. I have a friendly-looking face, and people often stop me to ask for directions. I explain, but almost always send them the wrong way.
Oh no.
I really hope they forgive me. What about you?
Yes, I remember a moment at the checkout when I didn't understand what the cashier was asking. I just smiled and nodded, and the cashier repeated the question again and again. In the end, I realized they were just asking if I needed a bag. Now it's funny, but back then it was very awkward.
Yes, the checkout is a classic situation. I learned a few standard phrases like card payment or no receipt, but if they asked something outside that script, it immediately confused me.
Right.
And honestly, it still happens sometimes. My language level is growing, but it's not native, so I still face things I don't understand. But I decided one important thing for myself. Moving to another country is already an act of courage.
It is.
If I need to explain myself in an everyday situation, I will do it in any way I can, with words, gestures, anything. This move gave me a big boost of confidence. I know now that I won't get lost completely.
How do you deal with the feeling that in another language you can't show yourself fully?
That's probably the hardest part. I love humor, I enjoy deep conversations, and I consider myself a smart person. But in another language, I can't always joke or support a conversation the way I want to.
I get that.
Sometimes it feels like I shrink to a limited vocabulary, like I am only 1,000 words, but I am not 1,000 words. This feeling of being lost appears sometimes, but luckily it passes quite quickly. Did you experience something similar?
Yes, very much. I also had moments when I felt I couldn't show myself fully, but I reminded myself that language is just a tool. My personality is bigger than grammar.
Exactly.
I try to see every step as growth, not as a limitation, and with time, we really become more free.
You know, I also realized that after moving, I lost many supports that had been built over years: language, traditions, social circles, cultural codes. Of course, that makes the feeling of being lost stronger. But step by step, I started building new supports, a new language, new people, new habits. And when I can rely on what I have already created here, my confidence comes back.
That's very true. When you create new supports, you rebuild yourself, and this path gives even more confidence over time. You are already creating your new story.
Thank you for this conversation. It feels like a warm memory of how it all started.